President and Chief Operating Officer of the Black Business School. So today we have a very special guest. We are here with Crystal Swain Bates. Crystal is a best-selling author of 12 Black children's books with over 361,000 copies sold of all of her books combined. And today we're talking with her about how she did it and how you guys can do it too. So Crystal, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Super excited to have this conversation.
Yes. We're super excited to have you. So can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you currently do and how you've gotten to this point in your career?
Absolutely. So I actually, first of all, I want to start by saying I have no experience, no formal education when it comes to writing or publishing children's books. I actually have a master's degree in international affairs, right? So that's totally different. I've never been a teacher or anything like that. So what ended up happening is a few years ago, I was in a bookstore kind of looking around, and I noticed that there were not a lot of books on the market that actually had Black characters. So I said, man, I wonder what I can do to change that. And I've always wanted to be a writer. So I have a book that I wrote when I was in second grade that I still have. So I always wanted to be a writer, but I never thought it was something I could actually make money from. So I didn't go to college for that, didn't really pursue it until I recognized a real need for it. And so what I ended up doing is I started looking up information about how to self-publish a book. I knew that I wanted to self-publish just so that I could have full control over the content of my books. And I published my first book in 2013, and I have not looked back since then. I've published 12 books to this date, 12 children's books, and they've been featured all over. And I've been really excited by how well it's resonated with the community, the Black community, and everyone that's seen the book so far.
Oh, that's wonderful. So talk about then in terms of, so you went to school for international affairs, so not even publishing. Did that degree help you in any type of way with what you're doing now?
Yes, I would say to a certain extent it did, because, well, for one thing, I speak French. And it also has helped me kind of get a lot of traveling a lot of traveling under my belt. So what it's done is it's really helped me broaden my view. So I started out publishing books in English. And then I said, well, wait a minute, there's other Black kids all around the world who don't speak English who need to be able to read these books. So slowly but surely, I'm actually adding books in other languages to my collection. So far I have French and I have German, because I lived in Germany for a bit. So
Got you. So you're an international traveler as well. We can talk about that, in another episode. What did your parents say? I guess, how was it growing up, in your household? Was there a strong sense of entrepreneurship? Has that always been something, I guess, in your cultural DNA?
Well, so I grew up in a single parent household with my mom and my sister, and my mom was always very, very big on education. Whenever we would go to a store, and I guess I'm that weird kid, like literally I wouldn't look at the toys. I always went to the book section, and she let me get as many books as I wanted to buy. She took me to book fairs and things like that. My mom never had her own business, so I can't say that I got it from her, but what I did get from her is just the belief that I can do anything that I set my mind to. So she was always very encouraging. Even when I told her that I wanted to quit my very good job working for the federal government to start a publishing company and start publishing children's books. So.
Absolutely. So it sounds like your family was supportive of that move. So was your entire family supportive, or how did they rally around you?
Yeah, well, my family's small. It's mainly my mom, my dad. He always let me do my own thing. My sister is very supportive. My family was supportive and very happy for me. A lot of them bought my very first books and shared them with people. But no one had anything negative to say. The people that actually had things that were kind of negative or surprising were people at my job. The people, oh, you're gonna leave this good government job? It was those kinds of people who couldn't imagine someone just kind of stepping out there and leaving a job to do something that they had never done before.
Yeah, I mean, I can resonate on that particular front because my wife did the same thing to start her company, Yoga Green Book, and it's basically an online yoga platform for Black people. And she was working as an engineer for the federal government, and yeah, her job was very cushy. And people were wondering why she, I mean, why she actually left in coworkers, that type of thing. So, what would you say to your coworkers in regards to why you left, or did that cause any self doubt in you in regards to making the decision to leave yourself?
Not at all. Not, I mean, not even 1%. Yeah, I don't, I don't have anything to say to them. My work has shown, I think I've proven myself to them at this point. But I, it's funny because a lot of the people who are my friends that I used to work with, they're some of my biggest supporters. And I know that they really look up to me because they can't believe that I was able to make such a big and bold move. So yeah, I don't have any sort of, negative energy towards them. And so far they've really been happy to see what I've been able to do. Because I think a lot of people, they get so stuck in the career thing and they have dreams of their own, but they're so afraid to tackle them. So when they see somebody else take that leap, it's really actually inspiring for them.
Got you. So I want to talk a little bit more about the mental shift that you had. But first, I want to talk about the action steps. So first, I want to talk about the action in regards to you saying, I am going to become a writer, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to quit my job. And what was going through your mind and your emotions at that particular moment in time. And then I want to talk about the mindset shift of where you finally knew, or like how you came to the realization that you can actually make money writing. So can we talk about that? So like, yeah, what was that like that action step in terms of like now is the time, I'm not going to delay any longer of fulfilling my childhood dream?
So I don't know if you actually make these lists. Like I do resolutions every year, and I have like a little bucket list, for my life, if you will. And so when I looked at that list, I said, I've already checked off all of these things. I've traveled overseas, I've, done amazing things that I wanted to do. But the thing I still hadn't done was write a book. And so that was one of the things that really, made me think, well, if I've done these other things, why haven't I checked this one thing off? And then the other thing was just, I wasn't really feeling, I kind of felt like I'd done what I could do to change lives in my current position. So what I was doing, I was in international affairs, an intelligence analyst for the federal government. And, I would write these papers, and the papers would go up, and maybe the president would see it, maybe, he wouldn't. And that would be it, and I wouldn't really know if any actual change was being made. So when I started thinking about writing children's books, I said, you know what, if even one child is impacted by what I'm writing, then that's going to be so big to me, to be able to actually see the impact that my work is having versus just kind of writing something and not knowing what's happening with it. And I'll tell you that the very first time a child saw one of my books and they ran over to it and they were so excited about it, I knew that I had made the right decision.
That's interesting. So, that there's that, I guess, social and emotional impact that, you were getting, from writing these children's books versus, working for the federal government in your old role. So can you just talk about a little bit more in terms of what does that fulfillment look like now that you're an entrepreneur full time and doing this full time?
Wow. Oh, this is a good question. I mean, the way that I feel fulfilled is something that I don't think I could have ever gotten from a job. And it's because, now at this point, I've been publishing for a few years. And when I look on Amazon, I mean, I can instantly get instant gratification because, my best-selling books have thousands of reviews. And I maybe was able to read them, and people are very vocal in reviews, right? And so they'll say, so one thing we haven't mentioned is that I wrote my books to boost and to empower Black children to love themselves the way they naturally are. So my characters, come in all different shades, and they have big hair, and they look like us. And I teach them that however they look, that's perfectly fine. They're not, they're not invisible in my books the way they are in most of the literature that's out there. But when I look on Amazon, people will say things like, my little girl came home crying because she hated her hair. I read this book to her, and now she can't stop saying big hair don't care. My daughter, she hated the way her hair looked, and she always wanted to wear it straight like the girls at her school. And now she wants to wear the Afro puffs. You know, things like that make me really feel like not only did I do the right thing, but that I'm having an impact on an entire generation of children. And for me, it really doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Can you still hear me? But okay, okay. Um, yeah, I realized I had the wrong microphone on. But yeah, anyway, no, I mean that's very powerful in regards to, like, I guess seeing, how your work translates into the real world, because we experience that a lot with the Black Business School, where it's sometimes if you don't really keep connected with your customers, either by talking to them on the phone, or reading their test or listening to their testimonials or reading them and like that type of stuff, it becomes just another course or just another number in a way, right? And especially if the numbers continue to grow, you still have to find those ways to stay connected. And it seems like you do that through you're reading the reviews, and it's helpful for us to really understand what the audience is what they're saying, because these are actual people who are spending their hard-earned money, whether it's $10 or $100 or $1,000, to purchase some of your products. So seeing that fulfillment in terms of the life changing, especially amongst our children, I think that's a great thing to see.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, so for the people just tuning in, I'm here with Crystal Swain Bates. Crystal is a best-selling author of 12 Black children's books, and some additional books as well, with over a total of 361,000 copies sold. You can find out more about her at crystalswainbates.com. That is crystalswainbates.com. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well. I believe it's in the description. So if you guys like this video, please go ahead and show her some love, and show us some love by pressing the thumbs up button. Please make sure that you share and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you'd like to receive more Black financial content, like the content that we are producing here today with Crystal. So Crystal, let's talk about mindset. You talked about you had this mindset that you couldn't make money as a writer, right? And that's why you never became a writer. So talk about that, and what was the process to change that mindset to what it is now, and whatever that mindset is that you currently think at this moment.
Yeah. So you know how sometimes people will say, once they make that first dollar in their business, they know that it will work. So I feel like once I started publishing my books, and I made my first, I think my very first amount of money was maybe like $32 that I made in 1 month. And I was like, okay, all right, that's fine. And maybe the following month it was like $60. But then it very quickly started to scale up. I had no idea that this would ever be something that I could do full time. I never thought I could do that. For me, this was always in my mind going to be a side hustle. So this is an example of a side hustle turning into the main hustle. I would say that once I started actually going to events, and this was a part of my strategy very, very early on, is I was out at every event. I live in Atlanta. I was out at the Sweet Auburn Festival, which is outside. I've got the books, it's raining, it's windy, and the books are flying. I'm at all sorts of different events. And that's when I was able to actually, meet people in the community, see them with their kids, talk to them about my books. And for me, that made a really big difference, because for one thing, I was able to see them like right there in person and hear what they thought about the books. But then for a lot of people, they had never met a Black author before, never met a Black author. So to see their kids, even adults were getting excited to talk to me like, oh, you wrote these? And it's so funny because my mom was actually with me at the time. She went to all of my events. She was with me at the time, and everyone thought she was the author because she was older. And so when they see me, I look fairly youngish, they were just very, very surprised that I had created all of these things by myself. So I would say that, again, my mindset initially was, great, this will be a side hustle. I can use this to fund other endeavors. But once I really started getting into it and publishing book after book and earning more and more money and seeing the impact, then I knew that this would be something that I could do full time.
At what point did you make that decision to do it full time and cut off the other source of income for you?
So October 2018, because nobody ever forgets their date, October 2018. So kind of in between, once I left my federal government job, I picked up another job. I moved to Atlanta, picked up another job, and it was meant to be a 1-year job. Okay. It was a temp position. The person who was in the job had been deployed for a year. So a 1 year, I gave myself 1 year to become a full-time author. And guess what? That was in 2013. I didn't leave until 2018. So a job that I meant to stay at for 1 year just to fund my publishing expenses, I ended up staying at for 5 years because I was afraid to take that leap. Well, after I started making plenty of money from the books, I was really afraid to just stop.
What was so hard to take that leap for you?
Well, it was hard because I kind of felt like, what do I have to fall back on? At that point in time, my mom had passed away. I told you I have a small family. And I didn't want the hard work that I had put into kind of building a career to just be destroyed, I guess, if by me leaving. And then another part of it was never financial. And I think for me, that's really interesting. I was never worried about the money. I know how to make money, but it was just that security, and to me, it was a false sense of security. Because as we've seen now, so many people have lost their jobs that thought that they had secure ones. But I just like knowing I had insurance. I've got health insurance, I've got life insurance. I've got a steady check that comes every month, whether I need that money or not, I've got that check coming. And what ended up happening is I started getting a lot of opportunities. I started having to say no to some things because I didn't have time because I had to be at work. I wasn't able to do book signings at schools as frequently as I wanted to because I had to take off. Every time I did a book signing, I took off work to go to be at that signing. And it got to the point where I said, you know what, my opportunities, I'm passing up amazing opportunities because of this job that I'm afraid to let go. And so I just quit, and I had the buy-in from my husband. He already knew that any day, any moment now, I would be quitting. I set myself up, I sold my house because I knew I had some equity in it and I knew that I would eventually quit. I made sure I started paying down some debt to make sure that I would be okay. So I started implementing some things to make sure that I would have, let's say a year's worth of living expenses before I quit, just so that I would not have to worry about that aspect of it or be a burden on my family.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So, you started the job in 2013 and you quit in 2018. So a 1-year job turned into a 5-year, a 1-year temp job turned into a 5-year, I guess, full-time, career at that particular moment in time. I want to talk about some of the nuts and bolts as it relates to gaining the technical skill set necessary to be a book publisher, and what you learned along the way, right? Because there's always just a lot of learning that comes in the first few years of entrepreneurship that there's a lot of times no movement. You're just learning and making mistakes, that type of thing. So I just want to know, I just kind of want to know your journey. So I could actually, yeah. So yes, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that first.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to take you all the way back. All right. So before I ever published my first book, I actually tried to do it a lot of years prior to that. Okay. So 2007, 2007. Okay. 6 years before I ever actually finally figured out how to publish. I wrote a book for my mom, and I went on, don't judge me. I went on Craigslist. Okay. In search of an illustrator. Right. Ended up meeting with the guy. I didn't have a lot of money to give at the time. Maybe I paid him $200, and he delivered to me $200 worth of illustrations. Let's just say it that way. So I was never actually able to publish that book, and it actually kind of discouraged me for a little bit. And so I want to share that because I know a lot of people have something similar that happens. They try. Well, I tried to publish my book. I tried to do this and it didn't work out. That's okay. Things don't always work out. You have to keep going because, I wrote these books for a reason. So I can't let one little roadblock keep me from getting these books into the hands of readers who need them. So what I learned is I learned how to search for illustrators. I learned how to vet the illustrators. And I think that's a key part of the process. You might find someone and think their work looks great, but you still need to have them do a test illustration for you. That gives you a chance to see what it's going to look like. It gives you a chance to see their speed, things like that. I had to figure out on my own how to format my books. And so my earlier books, my very first books, are formatted in a very basic way. That was what I knew how to do. And so as I've grown, now my books are fancy, 2-page spreads. They look different from how they used to look. But my best-selling book is one of those basic books and people still love it. So
why do people still love it?
They love it because it's well written. It's a fun book and the illustrations are great. So they're not concerned about it being, a 2-page spread because they don't even know what the page spread is. They just know that their kids love it and they want them to read the book to them over and over again.
Yeah, so that's interesting in terms of what you just mentioned there, because let's look at the timeline. So really you started in 2007, right? And got discouraged. You took a 6-year hiatus.
Yeah.
And then you came back in 2013, did it part-time for 5 years until you quit your job. And now, we're in 2020. So really this has been more of a 13-year journey, with the last, 7 years being, I guess most of it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting because I think a lot of entrepreneurs or people, think about that windy path a little bit more, right? And that you're right, people do get discouraged and say, "Yeah, I tried that a few years ago, and I don't think it was for me." And what's interesting about your story and great about your story is, yeah, you did that for a while, but you eventually came back to what it is that you needed to do and that you wanted to do and that you felt like was your life calling. I think also, with your story, it shows you in terms of, a lot of times the customers don't necessarily need all the production that we put into our product. The more important thing is just to get started and to know what they really care about. Given your stories, I don't think anybody was talking about the 2-page spread, but they were talking about the transformation that you were actually making into their daughters' lives, that type of thing as well. So I think that's a really key point to think about, for the aspiring entrepreneurs out there in the audience.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think we feel like everything has to be perfect. If I could go back in time, that's one of the things I would tell myself, is that nothing will ever be perfect. Just get it done. And, I mentioned my mom a lot because she was just such a big part of the process for me. But she's actually who inspired me to go ahead and publish that first book. I mean, I kept looking at it. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I should add this. Maybe I should do that. And she said, Crystal, the book is great. Just publish it. And she said, if you feel like you need to change something later, then you can do it. And I have never had to go back and change anything. So, that's been big for me. And I would probably have twice as many books on the market if I had just kind of gotten out of my own way earlier and stopped trying to overthink the process. The book was great when I finished it and it was done. And I should have just, taken that approach and not kind of held on to every book project for months and months, waiting to think of something else that could be wrong with it, or something I could add to it. So that's been a big part of my growing process. And I feel like when people hear that, I don't want anyone thinking, oh, well, she's putting out, imperfect products. My products are amazing. Bookstore quality, you can't tell the difference. You would never know. But it's just that when you seek perfection, you just have to know it does not exist. And when you're seeking perfection, sometimes that's just a way for you to delay the process because you're too afraid to launch. That's your excuse, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that, because perfection definitely does not exist when it comes to the world of business. So for the people just tuning in, I'm here with Crystal Swain Bates. Crystal is is a best-selling author of 12 Black children's books, with in other books too. In a total combined sales of all of our books is about 361,000 copies. And today we're talking about how she sold all of these books catered to the Black community. And you can find out more about her at crystalswainbates.com. That is crystalswainbates.com. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Black Financial channel for more content like we're producing today here with Crystal. So Crystal, I want to talk about self-publishing versus traditional publishing, and your I guess views regarding traditional publishing, because a lot of people I'm sure come to you and say, how can I go get a book deal for my children's book? How can I get a book deal for X, Y, and Z? So talk about that in your journey, and why did you decide to self-publish, and then what would you say to the people who want to traditionally publish?
Yes, so I do get this question a lot. So many people want to write, and when people want to write a book, they usually get hung up before they even write the first word. They get hung up on this. Should I self-publish? Should I, try to, work with a traditional publishing house? And so for me, I knew that self-publishing was my only option, and I'll explain that. So I decided to self-publish my books, and well, let me back up a bit. So when you self-publish your books, basically you finance your entire book project. It's you that will, write the book, hire the illustrator, have your book formatted, have your cover designed, have it distributed, market your book. You're going to do everything, right? And you're going to do it on your own. Okay, but by doing that, you also get to maintain full control over your book. And that was very important to me. When you look at a lot of the traditionally published children's books that do have a little Black character somewhere in there in the corner, in the background of the page, they don't tend to have traditional, if you will, Black features. They don't have hairstyles that our kids wear. And it's just, to me, they're chocolate coated white characters. And when you work with a traditional publishing company, they choose your illustrator. They get to decide what your characters look like. They get to decide, maybe you want your characters to have a specific name, and they might say, no, I don't like that name. No, your character's too dark skinned. We need to change the way they look. I didn't want that. I wanted the books to be true to what I wanted. So that's why I decided to self-publish. Now, for a person that might be interested in publishing traditionally, what I'll tell you is that that's not, it's not a horrible option. I'm definitely not a person that will tell you not to do that. But I just want you to understand the process. And that process is that you will send your manuscript to all these different publishing houses, and wait months and months for them to get back to you with a yay or a nay. And so you might end up having a book that you've had in your heart for so long. You've been wanting to do this thing. You've been shopping it around for a year or 2 years. And now that book might be completely out of date by the time somebody picks it up, if they even pick it up, or no one will pick it up. And now you're so discouraged because everyone's told you no, you think your book is horrible, or somebody else has done the same book. While you were waiting to get traditionally published, someone self-published and they were able to bring their book to market within 3 months, whereas you had to wait 2 or 3 years to finally bring your book to market. And another thing I'll say about that is, now the traditional publishing houses, they don't do as much marketing as you would think that they would. They actually look for people that already have a platform. So a lot of the books that you see coming out are books by celebrities, because they already have a platform. The publishing company knows that those books will sell. For a regular old person that is not a celebrity, you're going to have a very hard time getting a deal, to be perfectly honest with you. And when you finally, if you eventually get one, the royalties are so low, less than 15% usually. And they're keeping the remainder of that money, whereas with self-publishing, you don't have to pay, a publishing house, the majority of your royalties. And so those are, for me, those are the things that I thought about. And then of course, the fact that there weren't really Black books on the market for children to begin with tells me that publishing houses traditionally, they're not thinking about writing these books or publishing these books. So what makes me think that if I submit my manuscript to them, that they're going to accept it? And so um, that's, that's the difference. And that's why I decided to do it on my own. I know a lot of people wonder, well, I don't have the money, how much does it cost to actually self-publish a book? And that will differ depending on what type of book you're doing. If you're doing a children's book, you need illustrations, right? So that's an additional cost that you have to consider. Whereas
let's go into that piece, right? Because people are asking specifically in the chat. I see you, Eric, and I see you, someone else in here. I'm sorry, I lost it. There we go, Eric. Yeah, Eric asked both of those questions. But yeah, there were questions about financing and also finding suppliers, right?
Okay.
And the cost of differ, for children's books versus, different audiences. And I was going to ask you about that too, in terms of writing versus having to write and also, have the illustrator there as well. So talk about that in terms of, how you went about financing your book, and then also finding your suppliers in terms of illustrators and, book self-publishing and do it all. So how did you go about looking and doing that?
Yeah. Okay. So, to everyone that's watching, what you need to do is you want to build your book team. I highly discourage people to do these things on their own. If you're not a cover designer, you don't need to be designing a cover. If you can't draw professionally, you shouldn't be drawing your illustrations. So there are so many websites right now that are free where you can literally build your entire book team in like a couple of days. So I use Upwork, upwork.com. You can go on there and find freelancers who do everything. You can find people who will illustrate your book, people who will typeset your book. And it's so simple. You choose your own budget. So people will always ask me, how much does it cost? You can get a book done at any budget. Now I'm not talking $10, you know what I mean? Let's be reasonable. But if you have $300, okay, and you want to publish a book, a nonfiction book, something without illustrations, you can get that done. If you want to do a children's book and you have $1,000, you can get that done. There's going to be somebody out there that will accept that job. Now, the quality of the work between, that person and someone who charges 2 or 3 times as much may be different. But if the more people you test, the greater your chances of finding a person that's of the quality that you're looking for. You can also find people on Instagram. There are so many illustrators who are on Instagram, they're posting, and you'd actually be surprised. A lot of them have never published a children's book. Like, they can draw beautifully. They've never done a children's book. So if you come to them and you ask them about, what's their price per page, per illustration, they might tell you $60 per page, something very reasonable. And so because there are all those resources out there, all you have to do is go to a site like Upwork and create a job and say, hey, I'm looking for someone, I'm publishing a children's book. I'm looking for someone who can draw 16 illustrations, sized 8x10, full page spread. That's right there. You can literally type that in there. My budget is $60 per page. Submit it. And within 3 hours, you will have people that are sending you their portfolio and saying, hey, I'll do it for you. So that's one of the ways that you can find the people to do your illustrations for you, to do your typesetting or formatting for you. Sometimes people ask me about Fiverr. Fiverr is okay. You want to be careful on Fiverr, just as on any site, you just want to be careful in making sure that what you're getting is not something that someone else has already gotten, if that makes any sense. You want to make sure
you're right about that.
Work that you own the copyright to. So that's how I find the people that can do that work. And then as far as the actual fulfillment and publishing goes, there's this amazing thing called print on demand. So back in the day, we used to have to order 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 copies of a book, right? You order all these books from China or from some local printer, you get them shipped, that you spend a grip. Now you've got books spilling out of your garage and your closet. They're everywhere. They're all over the house. You're not selling them, and now you're just, and don't let you find a typo when you've already printed all these books. Now, You don't have to do that. Print on demand means that whenever a customer, for example, an Amazon customer, when they order a book, the book gets printed at that point and shipped to the customer. So you're never out of pocket. And that has been a complete game changer, because now anyone, regardless of budget, right? If you didn't have the money to order the 10,000 or 20,000 copies, you don't have to worry about that. As long as you can finance the upfront expenses of your book, you can publish your book.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's get to some numbers, not like your numbers, but just how much does it cost to publish a children's book, a quality children's book? You know, like I'm going to budget X amount of dollar, and it's not the low end, it's not the very most expensive end, it's just like a good solid book. How much would that cost up front, you know, for a person to do?
I would say for a new person, because they're probably going to make a couple of mistakes, I would budget about $2,000.
So $2,000, right? So that's the illustrator, that's, you know, the binding and setting up, you know, everything in Kindle Direct Publishing or whatever you decide to use on that particular front. Yeah. So it only costs $2,000 to actually get started. And how much, you know, would a typical book cost print on demand? About $5 or so?
So like this book right here, this is my best-selling one. This is paperback. This costs $3.65 to print on demand.
Gotcha.
So I can then,
per copy.
Exactly, per copy. I can then order my own copies of this and sell it in person for $10 or $11 or $12. And so now I'm making, you know, $8 per copy if I sell it in person. It's beautiful. I mean, and what I love about it is that you can get to market very quickly with print on demand, because literally you upload your book. That thing might show up on Amazon 5 days later, and now people can buy it. So it's a process that doesn't take a lot of time to do. It's just, you have to do it the right way. And so that's why I said, you know, if they do it kind of the right way, you can do it for about $2,000. I know there might be illustrators that are listening to this. They're cringing, they're mad. But the thing is, you know, I want people to know that you can pay all sorts of different, you know, their scales. And so, yes, if you're an illustrator and you're listening, you might charge a lot more than the numbers that I'm sharing. So I'm not discouraging people to, you know, find someone that maybe charges $200 a page or $500 a page, but everyone can't afford to pay $2,000 per illustration. So, you know, if you're a person who wants to be able to come out with a quality book, you can do that for around $2,000.
Got you. I love it. I love it. I love it. But then that leads to the most important thing in terms of marketing and distribution. So what have you learned as it relates to marketing and distributing and selling your book versus just the actual publishing of it?
So this is
because you sold 361,000. So you know something about that.
I do. So the biggest part of this process, whew, I don't know how many times I can say this, but this is the biggest part of the process, is making sure that you are publishing a book that people want to read in the first place. Too often people publish a book and then they come to me and they're like, my book isn't selling, like, what should I do? And I look at it and I'm like, who is this book for? You need to be able to tell me, or, you know, who the book is for. You should be able to write a sentence out that says, you know, I'm writing a book for single, you know, Black moms that teaches them how to do X, Y, Z. Like, you should be able to write a statement like that. I call it the positioning statement. If you can't write that, that means you don't know who your book is for. If you think your book is for everybody, it's not. And that's why you're not selling any copies. And so those are the most important things. Writing a book that people want to read in the first place. Now, how do you find this out? You can find this out by doing research. Go on Amazon. Let's say you have an idea for a book. Go on Amazon and try to find books similar to that idea, okay? Do some searching around, find books like it, look at the sales rank. Is it selling? Does it have reviews? What are people saying in the reviews? You know, there's just some level of research that you need to do. There are also some themes. If you look at the Amazon bestsellers page in different categories, you'll start to notice themes. And so for children's books, there are themes that people love to buy. People love to buy books about these specific topics. One of the themes right now that is blowing all the way up is diversity and inclusion. racism. If you have a children's book on that topic, or if you're planning or thinking about writing a children's book, and you're interested in that, get that thing out right now.
You probably got 3 already made over there.
And you will get immediate sales, because the thing is, you want organic marketing. That's what you want at the end of the day. My books, I wrote my book descriptions. I set my titles. I set my keywords in such a way that I can get organic traffic. So again, it takes knowing what people are searching for, and then it takes being strategic. A lot of people will write a book, and then when it comes to the book description, they spend no time writing it because they're tired. So now your book is on Amazon. You've got a horrible book description. Your price is way too high because a lot of people like to be, I call it greedy, but you want people to buy on impulse, which means that if you're an unknown author and they see your book and it's a 32-page children's book, they're not going to pay $18.99 for that. Or the numbers of people who will pay $18.99 are much lower than the people who would have paid $9.99 for your book. So they're just a couple of factors that are involved in making sure that your sales page is actually a sales page, because your book is a business. So that's been the biggest lesson for me, and that's how I've sold all of these books.
I love it. Your book is a business, so please make sure you guys remember that you think in those types of terms. Today we've been here with Crystal Swain Bates. Crystal is the best-selling author of 12 Black children's books with over 361,000 copies sold, with her children's books plus her other books that she's written. And please make sure you all like, share, and subscribe this interview if you like all the knowledge that Crystal is dropping today. There are some people in the chat, Crystal, who are loving what you have to say. Lioness says, "Hey, Lawrence and Crystal, I took Crystal's journal masterclass and it was phenomenal. I highly recommend it." Eric says, "Thank you for the tips. You saved me a lot of time with those tips. Definitely spend up my lunch time. Thank you so much." So people are really liking the interview. So today I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm taking it from another podcaster that I like. He's in the tech space. His name is Nathan Latka. But he asks a few just different questions at the end of each interview. And I'm going to do that with you today, Crystal, as the first guest.
All right, let's go.
All right, just rapid fire. What's your favorite book?
Walden.
Walden is your favorite book. Okay, what's your favorite business book, if you have one?
12-Week Year. I like 12-Week Year a lot.
Are there any CEOs or just people that you're following to help you guide you down your entrepreneurial journey right now?
Ooh, yes. And a lot of them I know personally, but I'll say, I'm just gonna say Lamar Tyler.
Lamar. Yeah, Lamar's always everywhere. Well, shout out to Lamar. Talked to him yesterday. So Lamar Tyler. How many hours of sleep do you get at night?
I'm embarrassed to admit this. Usually about 4.
What? Yeah, you gotta do better. We gotta work at the sleep. You gotta come over to the Watkins family. I get like my 8.
I don't promote team no sleep, y'all. Don't.
Okay. Don't do it. Okay. What was I gonna say? What was the last question? Oh, I'll just end with this. So, what do you wish that your 20-year-old self knew about your entrepreneurial journey?
My 20-year-old self, man, it's hard because I almost feel like if I knew then what I know now, which is that I can be making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month from selling books online, I almost feel like I wouldn't have ever worked for anybody. But I still feel like working for other people helped me decide and discover what I want for my life in terms of the freedom, So 20-year-old self, I would tell myself that I will do amazing things, and to just to start now. I really wish that I had started so much earlier than when I did. If I had started much earlier, I would own I already feel like I own it a little bit, but it's all right. I would fully own the Black children's book publishing space. Yeah, I wish I'd started sooner. So if you're listening to this and you've got an idea, go ahead and do it. Start now. Don't be thinking about this for 5 years from now and you're wishing that you had started, go ahead and do it now.
And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and contact you? Or do you also have a service to help people who want to be booked or to publish your book, if I remember correctly?
So you can find me at publishwithcrystal.com. And you can also actually find me on Facebook. So if you just so happen to catch this at the right time, I'm launching a free challenge, a 5-day challenge, how to write and publish your own children's book. And that challenge starts on July 27th. And it happens in my Facebook group, which is called 6-Figure Self-Publishing Secrets with Crystal Swain Bates.
Wonderful. Crystal, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for everyone listening. So before you get out of here, please make sure you give us the thumbs up if you love this video, and also make sure that you comment. So of course, we always are looking for new instructors within the Black Business School. And if you guys like what Crystal was talking about, let us know if you want her into, teach a course, or mini course or something in the Black Business School, and we'll do our best to actually make that happen as well. And last but not least, I'd like to thank our corporate sponsor, the Black Business School, which I'm also the president of. And at the Black Business School, we don't help people just climb the corporate ladder. We help them build their own as well. What we do is help African Americans to obtain a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. People come to us because they either want additional freedom in their life, they want to leave a legacy, financial legacy behind to their children, their community, or they want just additional security and stability going into their retirement years. So we have courses and classes on entrepreneurship, stock market investing, real estate investing, some technology things coming out, and leadership things coming out, and personal finance coming out very soon as well. So please head over to theblackbusinessschool.com. That is theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. So on behalf of Crystal Swain Bates, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed,